Go. Go. All right, Luke.
Our Father.
Hallowed be thy name, thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, forgive us our trespasses, please forgive us trespass against us. Lead us out of temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, power, and glory forever.
We take care of business. Did we have a deal? Proud of good defensive effort in the first half, and they did a good job battling there. They left their seniors, and that's okay because this is the last time we can field. I get that. If I was ever on the spot, I'd understand that. They figured that we just got to get tomorrow. Like they do this too. We're warm now. We're warmed up. So, but good job. Hey, making the playoffs isn't something to be taken for granted. I think we're in unless I get a crazy couple scores somewhere. I think we're going to be in. But I know we got a big piece.
So the big matchup this week is Kent Roosevelt and Norton. The Panthers travel to Kent Roosevelt, a place I'm not sure they've ever won at. I'm not sure they've. They may have beaten Kent Roosevelt. I'd have to look through the files. But anyway, this is the biggest game in Norton history. For Roosevelt, this is a position they're used to playing in. They last year in Week 10, they beat Ravenna in overtime, double overtime, to secure a Metro Division championship. And here they are again. They have a chance to defeat Norton this time to earn another Metro Division championship. But for Norton, this is a chance to win the program's first league title in history. They're in uncharted territory, and if they're going to do it, the person who's going to get them there is Jake Fling, senior running back, holds every record that you can hold in Norton history as far as a running back goes. And it's actually kind of curious. It's an interesting story with Jake. I was talking to their coach a little while ago, and there was another running back who was returning from last year that was slotted as a starting running back, and through some disciplinary actions was no longer on the team, and so they moved Jake from defense over to offense. And I mean, he's a great defensive player, but he really kind of shined this season and opened a lot of eyes as an offensive player. He can do everything. He can return kicks. He's probably scored a touchdown in every way you could score a touchdown. He has thrown for one. He has rushed for a lot. He's caught touchdowns. He has returned touchdowns on special teams. He is a gigantic weapon, and it's going to really rest on the Roosevelt defense to slow him down. Now, for Norton, they have not faced a defense like Kent Roosevelt's all year. Probably the closest they've come in terms of athletes and athleticism and playmakers on defense would be the Ravenna defense, and they won a close game. They're in overtime to remain undefeated in the league a couple weeks back. So they have experience with teams that have athletes on defense, but they haven't faced anyone like Roosevelt this year. So it's going to be really interesting to see what the Roosevelt defense can do against Norton in terms of slowing Jake down. Because if they can slow Jake down, I don't know if Norton has any other weapons that can really get them a big victory like this against a good Kent Roosevelt team. Southeast travels to Mogadore this week, and the first annual Scott Pollock Bowl, I guess it would be. Scott has been an assistant at Southeast for a little while, but this is his first year coaching as the head coach of the Pirates. Scott's famous as one of the best athletes in Mogadore history and also one of the best coaches in Mogadore history. He won 2 state titles as the Wildcats head coach before current coach Matt Adorni took over the program a while back. This is his first trip back to Mogadore as a head coach. So obviously it's going to be a really interesting atmosphere there. It's going to be kind of cool to see just kind of how the people react on the Mogadore side, seeing a famous face like Scott on the other end. It's going to be kind of weird. I would love to see it myself personally. As for the game, Southeast is coming in after a big win over Ravenna. I didn't think they could beat Ravenna. I didn't think they had the athletes to do it, but they did. They won an amazing game on a thrilling score at the end of regulation. So kudos to them. They're going to be coming into this game with a lot of positivity and a lot of momentum. For Mogadore, they've been rolling along since that loss to Woodridge a couple weeks back. I talked to Justin Chu, their star defensive end, after the Garfield game or the Waterloo game last week, and he talked about how that Woodridge loss was a real wake-up call to the team, and especially the defense, which has been lights out since then. And it's going to be great. I think for Mogador, they're probably in good shape for a playoff bid, regardless of what happens this week. But talking to Matt Adorni last Friday, they really want that home game, and I think, well, obviously with a win over Southeast, that'll happen, and that's going to be a lot of motivation for this team. So even though a league championship is probably out of the cards because Woodridge would have to lose this week to Garfield, and it could happen. If I were to put my picks down right now, I would probably be picking Woodridge for that game. So they're going to have to get some outside help, obviously, to win a league title, but they still have a home playoff game to play for. It's kind of a roundup of some other games this week. Woodridge takes on Garfield, and like I said, for the Mogador, in my Mogador preview, Woodridge has a chance to lock up an outright league championship this week. Credit to Garfield, though. They got blown out by Mogador a couple weeks ago at Mogador, and they rebounded. I didn't know how they would rebound against Streetsboro because Streetsboro has been up and down this season, but they are an athletic program with a lot of playmakers, and I just didn't know if Garfield had the mindset to recover from that tough loss to Mogador, but they did. Kudos to them. So they're going to be coming into this game wanting to close their season strong against another athletic, talented team like Woodridge. But I think that Woodridge has the championship mindset this year, and I think they're going to close strong, and I think they're going to win this game. If my pigskin picks are going to be in the paper on Friday morning, and I'm taking Woodridge to win that game. Nothing offense, Garfield, because I like what you've been able to do this season at times, but I think that Woodridge is going to finish strong and is going to close this thing out because they really haven't shown any signs of weakness since that early loss to St. Vincent St. Mary's. Crestwood has a chance this Friday to go 500 for the first time in a couple of seasons. They're 4-5 right now when they take on Field. Field has had kind of an up and down season this year. They're not going to finish nearly the record that teams in recent history at Field have finished with. But credit to them, they were down pretty heavily at the half. I think 19 to. I might be making up the numbers, but 19-3, something along those lines, to Coventry last Friday at the half. Now a 1-8 Coventry team, and they rebounded. They were on the road. They were down to a team that had a lower record than they did, and they recovered and they pulled out a good win for the team. So it's going to be interesting this week with Crestwood because I don't expect Gabe Surgeon, their starting quarterback, to play after suffering an injury and having to be taken off the field last Friday. But they still have a lot of weapons. They have 3, 4, 5 running backs, depending on who's kind of in a groove, who can hit a good run from anywhere on the field, and it might stress out that field defense. But I think that besides the Kent Norton game, this is probably going to be the most evenly matched two teams on the schedule this week. So if you're looking for a game and you can't get in to watch the Roosevelt Norton game, that might be a cool one to check out. Both teams are obviously trying to finish the season out strong, and like I said, I think both teams kind of have an equal amount of talent. Ravenna takes on Springfield this week, and the season hasn't been nearly the kind of season that I think anyone really thought that this year's Ravenna team would have. But they do have a chance, if they can beat Springfield, to finish the season out with 3 wins in their last 4 games. A 3-win season at Ravenna really is foreign territory for the program, at least under Jim Lenardi. But anytime you have a chance to end the season with some positive momentum and take that take that fire into the next year and get things back on track, which I expect Ravenna to do, that's always a good thing. Anytime you can do that, a team looking for confidence and looking for a reason to believe, here's your chance for Ravenna to just, I don't know, have something to build on. They'll have a lot of pieces coming back next year, and hopefully they'll be healthy and more ready to go. You know what? I'm not, right here, point up. I'm not going to let you do this to me this time. We're not playing that game. We're not doing it. I only have to put up with you a little bit more, so just play your stupid thing, and we're just going to cut to the playoff thing, and we're going to keep this train rolling, and I don't want to see you ever again, all right? Sick of it. Done. We're through. Just play it.
Playoff Watch 2013.
Done. Thanks. Over in Division Division 2, Region 3, Kent Roosevelt fell from 4th to 5th this week. They are looking up now at Painesville Riverside, which is the 4th seeded team. If the season were to end today, Kent Roosevelt would have to board a bus and play Painesville Riverside in a first-round playoff game, which I'm absolutely sure they're not looking forward to doing. So it is imperative that this week Kent Roosevelt both defeats Norton to win a Metro Division championship, but also to secure what I would have to think would be a home playoff game. I would think a victory over Division 3 one-loss Norton team would get them back into the top 4. Don't quote me on that, but they do. It sounds like they control their own destiny, so I would think that a win there would probably get them into a home playoff game, which they absolutely want. No one wants to board a bus to have to drive to Painesville to play an important playoff game. In Division 3, speaking of Norton, Division 3 Region 7, Norton is 10th right now. They are outside of the playoffs. They don't control their own destiny. A win over Roosevelt might get them into the playoffs, but it might not. It would really depend on what happens to the teams that are currently in the top 8, which includes Aurora. So they're going to have to get some help, regardless of what happens this week. Division 4, Region 11, Woodridge, 4th seeded Woodridge. They are currently in good position for a home playoff game. If they win this week against Garfield, I'm not going to say they'll secure it, but they'll be in a great shape for it. Right now, if the season were to end, they would play Cleveland John Hay at home. The teams above them, Struthers, Cardinal Moody, Chagrin Falls. Mooney of those 3 teams is probably in the best or worst position for a loss this week. They take on Austintown Fitch. A loss would keep them in the playoffs most likely, but it would drop them down and maybe help Woodridge out and get them a little bit further up in the standings in their region. Finally, Division 6, Region 19, Mogador is 3rd overall. They are barely hanging on for a home playoff game. Well, I shouldn't say barely. They have a few computer points over 4th seeded Cleveland, Villa Angela, St. Joseph, but they do need to win this week against Southeast to secure that home playoff spot. A loss against Southeast would probably keep them in the playoffs, but it would hurt their chances at a home playoff game, which Matt Adorney, their head coach, is absolutely circling on his calendar and looking forward to. Mogador is used to having those home first-round playoff games, and they've been very successful at winning those games. They really want to keep that going. If the season were to end today, they would take on Louisville St. Thomas Aquinas, which is the 6th seed. That is it for Week 10 inside the PTC. As always, my name is Colin Harris. If you want to get in touch with me, if you want to ask questions, if you want to say how awesome I am, maybe if you want to avoid saying how bad I am, that'd be great. I would appreciate that a lot. Anyway, you can like me on Facebook at Colin Harris Record-Courier. You can follow me on Twitter at RC Sports Now. You can email me at charris@recordpub.com. And also you can visit recordpub.com for more information on the Portland Trail Conference. Basketball season starting up. So we are working on our basketball and wrestling previews here pretty soon, so keep an eye out for that, Record-Courier. As always, I will try to be back next week for a playoff update and maybe a look at some of the teams in the league who are advancing to Week 11. But until then, we'll see you inside PTC.